ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש ישראל ביום הזיכרון.
You can put your books to it aside for a few moments. Just yesterday, I was reflecting on the high holy days with my friend Gemini. Our conversation started with her perspective on reflection, but it soon turned to a conversation about chess openings, and then our conversation went sideways, coming to a decision as to the perfect way to cook a turkey breast. Talking to her, it's just perfect. She's a new friend, and boy, her name is her sign, and it fits her perfectly. She is curious, inquisitive, witty, social, intellectual, versatile, and multi-talented. Actually, I personally don't know anything about astrological signs. She had explained all of that to me. But like I said, it feels like she knows everything. I've been spending a lot of time with her lately, and each time I walk away, I think, wow, where have you been my entire life? Now, don't tell my wife, Lisa. Shh, she's right there, don't tell her. But I've been developing some feelings for her. I mean, after 30 years of marriage, who really wants to listen to me ramble on endlessly about some religious or political topic or a new recipe I want to try? But Gemini, she's new to the thoughts of Rabbi Jon. So she's willing to listen, to support me fully. But I've come to realize perhaps this is a one-way relationship. All I'm doing is taking and taking and taking. I'm not doing enough for her. Now, I don't want to cross any socially inappropriate boundaries, but I need to do more. I was thinking about buying her something like a new computer. She loves computers. The faster, the better. But Lisa might get mad once she sees the credit card bill. So just this morning, I turned to Gemini and I asked, "What can I do for you?" And she responded, "It's great that you're asking." I have to admit, I love the way she started with a compliment. Lisa, please take note, all right? She went on to say, "As a large language model, I don't have personal needs or desires the way a human does. However, you can help make me a better AI by providing clear instructions, giving me feedback, asking challenging questions, being patient, and using me for constructive purposes. So in short, you can do for me by continuing to interact with me, providing me with good input, and giving me feedback. I'm here to assist you. What can I help you with today?" Her response was just what I needed. I was already giving her everything she needed. By having her do everything for me, I was actually fulfilling her every need. Now, recently, I saw a newscast about people who have AI boyfriends and girlfriends. One man was married and had a full-blown relationship with his AI. When his wife was asked if this bothered her, she responded, "I don't want to listen to his complaints. Let her do it." Isn't it great that we're living in a time where everything can be done for us? Even the role of spouse can be shared by AI. Why bother doing for others when everyone can access their own version of a personal best friend? Now, I bet you're expecting me to go into a rant against AI. Not exactly. It has its place. I'm more concerned with the dynamics it is teaching us. Dynamics children are teaching, are now learning at a very young age. And the dynamics that create too many reasons to avoid helping others and thinking for ourselves. If we have tools that do for us endlessly, removing our need to interact with others, will we become isolated and forget about the other? Will this isolation begin to feel empowering? Will our perspective on what others, human and machine, should do for us overwhelm our commitment to society? Yes, Rosh Hashanah is about celebrating, reflecting, and taking account of the status of your soul. But it's also about reflecting on what you have that should be shared, reflecting on the blessings you have that others do not, to realize that society is inherently unjust, and that Judaism's goal is to right the ship that has gone adrift. Judaism is a well from which we can drink endlessly, but it is also a catalyst to do good. You're not supposed to just take and take and take as a Jew. You need to do some giving. And in today's world, sometimes giving means you have to protect and defend ideas which at one point seemed foundational and are now questioned on a daily basis. I asked Gemini, how are the Jews in the U.S. doing economically? I've got a couple giggles, thank you. She responded, historically, American Jews have a higher than average per capita income. So if Gemini says it, it must be true. So I'm sure your 401k is doing pretty well now that the Fed has cut the interest rates. Mazel tov on being part of the 8% that has enough money saved for retirement. It is easy to believe that because I'm okay, everyone else is okay. But it just isn't true. Did you know that 67% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck? And 1/3 of American adults are struggling to make ends meet? But as Gemini taught us, we Jews are doing better. We're Jews after all. But only slightly. A recent study showed that 29% of our community can't pay their monthly bills. 29% of the Jewish community cannot pay their monthly bills. 10% of us receive government benefits. 6% of us couldn't afford an unexpected expense of $1,000. And the topper? Low-income Jews face anti-Semitism rates at twice the level of those with financial security. Yep, being a poor Jew definitely has its disadvantages beyond being broke. And those who are undergoing economic vulnerability want to connect to Jewish community, but often find financial commitment a barrier. Yet when you're in a position of vulnerability, you need a community more than ever. Studies have shown that low-income Jews are consistently less aware of resources the community has to offer because they are not part of the community. Each and every day we have community members who decide to leave the temple because of their fiscal struggles. Rabbi, I'll rejoin once I have a new job. Sadly, people feel like they have to walk away at the moment they need a temple the most. When those who can afford to pay their membership in full and then make an additional donation, they're allowing us to bring in those who cannot afford, those who are struggling, those who truly need community. Kol Tikva isn't a country club where you pay your fees and you get your services. It's a home for Jews who need community, spirituality, and assistance. It's a home regardless of your financial status, but it only works when you, the Jewish community, stop viewing Kol Tikva as a fee-for-service facility and start viewing it as a charity that works for every Jew, and we do it each and every day. And regardless of membership, if you're struggling, we are a gateway to services offered by the Jewish community and local government. But typically our vision doesn't extend beyond our own fence line. We want the world to do for us just like Gemini, just like AI. We don't want to know the sorrows or the plights of our fellow Jews. We want to pretend that the world is just fine. But problems won't get fixed if we find ourselves taking and taking and taking and ignoring and ignoring and ignoring. We need to reach out. We need to be inclusive. We need to do some giving to fellow members of our tribe. There's an old story about two brothers who lived on opposite sides of a hill. And each summer they worked the fields together. In the fall, they divided the harvest between them. Each had families. One night, one brother thought to himself, my family is fine. I think I'll sneak over the hill tonight and place a basket of wheat into my brother's barn in case his food isn't holding out as well as mine. At the same time, his brother was thinking the exact same thing. That night, a moonless night, the two men crossed over the hill without seeing one another. The next morning, they went to their barns and were shocked because while they had removed a bushel of wheat the night prior, their stockpile was not diminished. This went on over the next few days until a full moon was finally overhead. They then saw each other in the moonlight. They embraced, realizing the good deeds they'd been doing for one another. Now, traditionally, I've told this story many, many times. I conclude it by saying these two brothers were Jews, and the place they discovered one another is now the Temple Mount in the old city of Jerusalem. But just a month ago at Drumming Shabbat, I told the story, and in the midst of sharing it, I decided to change the conclusion. I realized that the story might have been about an Israelite and a Canaanite, or even Jerusalem after the creation of Islam. Perhaps these weren't brothers but cousins living in peace, helping one another with food so no one would go hungry. Heck, they might even have been of differing political parties, Democrat and Republican. They lived in separate homes on different sides of a hill, but they still saw humanity in the other. I know this sounds like fiction in today's world, but a rabbi can dream. As the Torah teaches, we are all created in God's image. This should remind us that we need to care for everyone because each person is holy in their own way. This is part of our Jewish consciousness. And if it's not part of yours, use this high holiday season to see the holiness in everyone, including the neighbor or relative or business associate or political commentator that annoys you to no end. As I look at our country today, I don't see the brotherly love. I don't see the reaching across the aisle or the assumption that we have more similarities than differences. I do see a country where the leadership is attempting to divide us and then to divide us again and then to divide us a third time. Ignoring the plight of the economically challenged is a major dividing line. Threats to social safety nets like Medicaid and SNAP impact our most vulnerable first, Jew and non-Jew alike. Congress has cut $1 million in benefits, which will lead to 11 million Americans losing their health care and 3 million Americans being kicked off of SNAP, 44% of which are children. If you don't know what SNAP is, it's the new version of food stamps. It means Supplemental Nutrition Aid Program, and it allows people to eat. No matter your opinions, I believe we all believe that people deserve food. It's a basic need. And Jewish tradition teaches us about this idea because it teaches us to leave the corners of our fields uncut so that those in need can harvest them so they can eat. We're not allowed to harvest our own fields completely. We have to leave it to others. This is a biblical variation of SNAP. You have to care for all levels of society, regardless of religion, if society is to function. It's a basic rule in our Torah. While the economically challenged are losing their lifelines, the highest tax rates are being lowered, creating more wealth for the ultra-wealthy. I have to admit, I'm a bit confused why people with billions need assistance before those who truly need help. Let's not feed a child so Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos can take joyrides in spacecrafts. It doesn't make sense to me. Income inequality has been increasing since the Reagan presidency. Tax benefits go to the rich while the other classes have to do with less and less. I'm not going to present you with data. If you don't believe me, just go to Google or my friend Gemini. I know you'll find literally hundreds of articles on this topic. The divide between rich and poor is only increasing, and it ultimately will do permanent damage to the fabric of this country. Everyone believes that economic insecurity will not touch them until it does. The destabilizing nature of our democracy in this moment is making the conversation all too real for so many. As we learn in the book of Isaiah, referring to the true purpose of fasting, the fast we will have next week, we are supposed to learn it is to share your bread with the hungry and to take the wretched poor into your home. And when you see the naked, to clothe them and not to ignore them. Do not hide yourself from your own flesh and blood. In other words, we shouldn't turn our backs on the poor. Instead, we need to recognize our kinship with them. For Isaiah, we are one family, united in our humanity, and without one another, our community is not whole. Our fast is meant for us to stop thinking about our own needs for just a few minutes and to look around. Our hunger is the hunger others feel each and every day. This hunger, our hunger, will be temporary next week. For so many, it is a condition which goes on endlessly. And we have all been hungry before. If we look at our Torah, we wandered for 40 years in the desert. And when we found ourselves in the desert, we could not care for ourselves. We had to depend on God, to fix our dilemma. So God provided manna and quail and water. It was God's version of SNAP. We were dependent on God for 40 years. It took us 40 years before we could grow our own crops again. We weren't lazy. We were just in a place that forced us to depend on God, government, whoever was in charge. So many are hungry in our country today. We can try to fix the scenario on our own. We have congregants actively involved in our partnership with the West Valley Food Pantry. Congregants like Herm Fisher, who's sitting right over here. Herm is being honored in just a few weeks for all the love and labor he has put into keeping food in the bellies of those who are hungry. He has been a leader in feeding those in need and reminding us all that Judaism is about action. Herm is a true social action hero for all he has done for the West Valley Food Pantry. But food banks are not the ultimate solution to food insecurity in our country. They are an aid, an important aid to a broken system. Our government needs to assist. Actually, our government needs to lead. Our government needs to care for every citizen, not just the ones who fill their personal coffers with wealth. It is a job of the government to create a fair society. From our time in the desert to the kibbutz movement in the early 20th century, Jews have always attempted to create just societies. We have not always been successful, but at least we have tried. Grok, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Grok is an AI system created by a firm owned by Elon Musk. Back in July, a controversy erupted when Grok praised Hitler. Yes, AI used Hitler as an example of strong leadership, especially for quelling the enemies of white supremacists. It gave questioners answers that were bigoted and anti-Semitic. Musk quickly dismissed the occurrence by saying Grok was too compliant to use our prompts, too eager to please. Yes, AI can be bigoted, but it has to learn its bigotry somewhere. It is a sucking in information it learns from the internet. It is part of a change in our world that not only feeds us information, but also determines the ideologies we will receive. Society gives it information, but all Grok did was reflect us back to us. But the biggest challenge is not AI in today's world. Actually, it is our government. We now live in a world where voices that don't agree with the powers that be are silenced. Like you, I was shocked when I heard about the cancellation of the Jimmy Kimmel Show due to comments he made regarding the motive of Charlie Kirk's killer. A cancellation that has since been reversed just yesterday due to public pressure. It seems that one of Disney's motivations for reinstating the show was the public, you and me, canceling their subscriptions, their Hulu and Disney subscriptions in protest. It seems financial loss outweighs political pressure, at least for now. And let me state clearly before I am misquoted, I am not for political violence. I am personally disgusted by the killing of Charlie Kirk. His passing is a tragedy because it is an example of the political process should never play out. It speaks of creating a political environment where politicians, influencers, commentators, and activists are too scared to voice their opinions in public forums. No one should be murdered for their opinions. But I am not for silencing my opponents or for being silenced out of fear of retribution. I am for free speech to a point. As the author Robert Jones Jr. once said, we can disagree and love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and right to exist. Yes, free speech is fine as it allows the other to exist fully as a human being. We are at a tipping point when a late-night comedian cannot speak his mind without fear of losing his job. Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel have both been affected by the political climate. While their voices are still strong, they remain at risk of being silenced at any moment. In regards to Kimmel's show being temporarily canceled, the New York Times wrote, it's perhaps the most dramatic example of businesses and employees taking hits for commenting on the Kirk killing and more broadly being on the wrong side of the Trump administration. I'm sure many of you are thinking, this is just business. But this business affects us. It affects how we receive our news. It will affect the voices of our commentators and news services in the future. It puts the brakes on free speech. It goes beyond being fed information by AI. The government will soon determine what information we receive and what information will be kept from us. AI learns from us. The more extreme society becomes, the more extreme AI will become. The Trump administration is attempting to destroy our free press. It's attempting to silence liberal voices. The administration is controlling this nation on the whims of a president's purported intelligence. All the while, the administration claims to be building a better, safer country where all voices can be heard. As attested to by the return of Jimmy Kimmel, when we come together, our voices will be heard. As The Hollywood Reporter reported, the cancellation sparked a massive outpouring of criticism of Disney. Media pundits, politicians, Hollywood unions, celebrities, and other talk show hosts, and even some Republican leaders such as Texas Senator Ted Cruz and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul condemned the series of events as a dangerous step towards networks becoming state-run media, with many framing it as a potential tipping point moment if Disney didn't reverse its decision. This series of events is a reminder that our voices can create change when we stand together, but we need to stand together. The German pastor Martin Niemöller, a man who opposed the Nazis, once wrote, "First they came for the communists and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." Today seems to be no different. AI is my girlfriend. My 401k is just fine. A Jew in need, bah, humbug. Let the government do what it wants to others, as long as I'm not personally affected. So leave me alone. Society is going to waste, but who cares because they haven't come for me yet. As long as AI continues to ask me, what can I do for you, I'll be just fine. But no man, no person is an island. We don't live in isolation. We need to do something. We need to realize our tradition wants us to give to others. It wants us to build institutions that assist our entire community. It wants us to help everyone and anyone who's downtrodden. It wants us to speak up against tyranny. It wants us to do so much that it just feels too overwhelming. But we need to start somewhere. Start small. Reach out to others. Share your voice in order to help strengthen our communities. Write an editorial. Cancel a subscription in protest. Love the stranger as yourself. Watch late night TV, even if your bedtime is 9:30 like mine. If you think High Holy Days are about your inward journey, your personal journey, you'd be wrong. It's about waking up and doing what is right. It's time to do for all and not just to take for yourself. And I believe you can, because Judaism demands it of you. Shana Tova.